it's probably extremely generous to say that the supplement industry is challenged. I actually found a peer-reviewed published research paper that showed that 50% of the supplements that this research group had purchased on the market, the general market, didn't have in them what they said they had in them.
Welcome to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, the podcast for high achievers who want to stay sharp, focused, and full of energy despite their diagnosis. With your host, National Board Certified Functional Medicine Health Coach, Julie Michelson, where Julie helps you take your power back from autoimmunity. And now here's your host, Julie Michelson.
Welcome back to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast. I'm your host, Julie Houghton, and today we're joined by Chris Burres, who is the founder and chief scientist at MyVitalC, where he manufactured a Nobel Prize-winning molecule responsible for the single longest longevity experimental result in history. He's also the author of Live Longer and Better, the host of the Uncovering the Secrets to Longevity Health Summit, and podcast host of Live Beyond the Norms. Beyond all of that, he is a proud patent holder and master of comedy improv. He is the intersection where science meets laughter, and his life's mission is to help people live longer, healthier, happier, pain-free lives with science. In today's episode, we're talking about supporting longevity with ESS60. Chris manages to share the science behind MyVitalC's ESS60 products and how they work, and he does it in a fun and relatable way. Listen in to learn how people are using the products to feel and look better, supporting their health and longevity. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Julie, thank you so much for having me. We had kind of a long intro as we were getting started for the podcast, so I'm sure this is going to be an amazing conversation. And you've done 220 plus podcasts, probably. That's what I saw somewhere. Congratulations. That's a lot of work.
It is. I feel so honored and blessed to be able to have these fun conversations. As I admitted to you before we hit record, sometimes I forget that it's not just for us.
It's not just me having a conversation.
The whole point is for everybody to get to learn from your expertise, and you're doing some exciting stuff. And I love for listeners, you have a different, I would say, intro into the wellness and longevity space. Something other than a personal healing journey, although I get the idea there might be something under there at some point, maybe that pops up. But you really didn't wake up one morning and say, I want to start a supplement company, did you?
Well, so it's amazing how you just phrased that, because I often talk about how I believe that people become supplement people one of two ways. And one of those is they wake up one morning and they say, I want to be wealthy and I want to do it with supplements. And I'm very okay with people being wealthy. It's just not how I ended up here. And the other one is, like you alluded to, that pain to passion story where they have their own health challenge or the health challenge of a loved one, and they figure out how to solve it with, protocols and supplements or whatever. And now they want to save the world. And hopefully it doesn't surprise you. I'm not against people saving the world. It's just not how I ended up here. I've been manufacturing this wacky molecule. So I'm holding up the model of a molecule. If you're listening, just imagine a soccer ball where the lines on the soccer ball represent the bonds between the carbon atoms. You have the spherical molecule of 60 carbon atoms. I've been manufacturing this since 1991. They thought it would be toxic. They put it in a study. Instead of being toxic, the test subjects lived 90% longer than the control group. And now I'm in the health space. And so I'm just trying to be a good shepherd. I'm very fortunate. I am the geeky guy in the lab coat. We have a lab right back over there. And so I get to be geeky and sciencey and push forward research and share stories with people, which I absolutely love to do.
Well, and you do it so well. And I think that maybe ties into your improv background, because you sure can think on your feet. So let's talk about that wacky molecule, ES S60.
Yep.
What is it for those that don't know? Because sometimes I forget that not everybody knows what it is, and I have so many things I want to ask you, but let's start at the beginning
Start
here.
at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's a very good place to start. So, in 1985, three scientists discovered and really published the discovery of this ESS60 molecule. They discovered it actually at Rice University here in Houston. That's where our lab is based. And they ultimately went on to win the Nobel Prize in 1996. So my company started manufacturing it in 1991. So we're the oldest and longest manufacturers of this. We kind of colloquially call it, or affectionately call it, a Buckyball, because it was named after Buckminster Fuller, and it's a ball shape, of course.
It's where the
And
word fullerene comes from as well.
exactly, right? That's a pretty fantastic story. So the name of this collection of molecules with 60 carbon atoms, 70 carbon atoms, 74 carbon atoms, and on up, all even numbers and the right amount to have the right hexagons and pentagons in here in order to make these round shapes. Those are all called fullerenes, and yes, they were named after Buckminster Fuller. He's the one who brought to prominence the geodesic dome. Now, you're probably familiar with the geodesic dome. I always see them like when you're driving around beach towns. Every now and then you'll see that round house. That's a geodesic dome.
They have some in Colorado too, in the
Yeah.
mountains. Yeah.
Yep. And then if you go to Epcot Center, right, that big dome is a geodesic dome. So he brought it to prominence, the geodesic dome to prominence. And then when they figured out the shape of this molecule, by the way, there's a book called The Most Beautiful Molecule, which is written entirely about this. I also have a book called Live Longer and Better, which is really about the molecule, its discovery, the drama behind the discovery. That's always fun. And then its journey into the health industry. The reason they won the Nobel Prize is because this molecule, the way I describe it, performs as well or better than the current best material in almost every application. So it makes better inks, better batteries, better tires, better photocells. And this is often
Sounds
where people,
gross.
yeah, right. Wait, are you telling me, Julie, that you didn't wake up this morning, look at your car and think, I wonder what part of my car battery should I be taking every day for
For
my
the
health?
most part, I've been trying to detox all
From
of those kinds of things for like a couple of decades now. So
Yes.
it is amazing and that was, you alluded to, that something that you thought was going to be really not safe for humans actually is.
Yeah, well, it's one of the things that kept us out of the industry as we were really kind of growing up, because we started the company in college, really growing up and being in this kind of Nobel Prize-winning environment, right? Selling
No
commercial
pressure.
quantities of the material to research institutions around the world. Our understanding was that the molecule, it's expensive to make. And the reason it's expensive to make is because you actually have to vaporize. The current best way to make it is to vaporize graphite in an inner environment at a slight vacuum. Now, it turns out that graphite is one of the hardest materials on the planet to vaporize. So you need local temperatures of the sun. So basically, you have two rods with the plasma between them, which is at the temperature of the sun. And then it also needs to be devoid of oxygen, right? So you can only have noble gases in there. And then you also need to be at a slight vacuum. So there's incredible challenges here. The material, even to today, like when we first started the company, the material was selling for $6,000 a gram, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And even to today, it's significantly more expensive than gold on a per ounce basis. Because of that, we understood the applications where this would excel would really fall into one of two categories. One of them is, if you think about the DoD, right, the Department of Defense. Let's pretend that this molecule could make airplanes invisible. If it could, it doesn't. Let me just, but if it could.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Everybody was like, wait, what?
But if it could make them invisible, then the Department of Defense would pay whatever it costs, right?
Sure.
There's just the cost doesn't matter. And the other is where you could use a very small amount of the material and have an outsized impact, right? So if you just needed a whiff of it and your tires got much more powerful. By the way, we mentioned inks, batteries, tires, and photocells. It does make better tires, but a tire company, if you and I've been privy to some conversations between people advocating for this molecule in tires, and the tire company is like, look, if it increases our tire cost by 1 penny,
Yeah.
we are not interested, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, and they don't necessarily, unfortunately, anymore in manufacturing, people don't want things to last longer.
Yeah.
Sadly, it's a
Yeah.
totally different business model than it used to be because
Yeah,
I'm
it
that
used
old.
it
So,
you yeah, it used to be we are that old. Yes. It used to be like just put the best product out there, and now you're like put
yeah.
the most profitable product out there, and that profitable product actually falls apart after a certain period of time. I'm sure we all had, purchased Amazon products and then repurchased and then repurchased. You wish you're like we could just use all these parts, but hopefully AI will figure all of that out, and then we'll be great. So the first application that really landed was this health application, right? So the reason they thought the molecule would be toxic, right, because it went into a toxicity study, is there's 20 of these benzene-like shapes on the exterior of this cage. Now, benzene is ubiquitous in modern society. And as an example, if you just glance around you and think about anything that's plastic or notice anything that is plastic, and boom, that's gone because the foundational molecule is benzene. Many medications are based on the benzene ring, including aspirin, a lot of detergents. So it's ubiquitous in our society. But when benzene is on its own, it's known to be toxic and known to be carcinogenic. So because there's 20 of those shapes on the exterior of this ESS60 molecule, they assumed it would be toxic, and they put it in this fantastic toxicity study. In that study, it was Wistar rats. They had 3 groups. One group was given water, the control group. One group was given olive oil, kind of a semi-control group, and then one was given olive oil with the ESS60 molecule in it. And as mentioned, instead of being toxic, the test subjects that they gave it to lived 90% longer than the control group. So that's the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals, peer-reviewed published research, and I'm very proud to share that my lab provided the material, and my lab is mentioned in that original study. And that, you can imagine, changed my trajectory from being a happy-go-lucky carbon nanomaterial scientist to getting into the health space. And now I get to do things like this, share great content and great conversations with people like you. And so just trying to be a good shepherd to this molecule, continuing to do research, which is not normal for supplement companies. All sorts of good stuff is going on these days.
Yeah. And my listeners know it's so rare. I have certain companies I do trust. But I am not somebody who, while I take a lot of supplements, I don't necessarily across the board. I don't do a lot of supplement-based interviews, and because of quality, right? Because it's back to who do you trust, who has the testing behind their product, and continued integrity. Because people don't, this isn't everybody's full-time job, right? We were talking before we recorded, and you mentioned a supplement company in relation to a person we both know that everybody knows the name of that company, but that company was sold a few years ago, and the quality of some of their products is not what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a tricky space. And I really, really, really encourage listeners to take some time, either find the people you trust to recommend the things you're using. I think having a healthcare provider guide you, finding one who's open to some things that they certainly didn't learn about in medical school, is always a great start. And that was why I was so excited to talk to you.
I can speak. Okay, let me speak to that a little bit, because so that study came out in mid-2012. In mid-2013, we started getting phone calls from this crazy, wacky group of people called biohackers. I can say that because I am one. And they were saying things like, hey, how much of that stuff that those rats took and lived 90% longer should I be taking? And my business partner and I thought that the answer
Ah.
was zero, like none, right? Because what we heard is exactly kind of what we alluded to earlier.
Right.
So you're asking me how much of that stuff that we sell to research
That we
institutions
told you
around the
not to
world.
take, you should be
Yeah,
taking. Yeah.
yeah. And so we put not for human consumption on our labeling, and that
Mhm.
led to kind of fun calls like after mid 2013, where people would call and say, "Hey, Chris, my knee pain is gone," and you're like, "Wait a minute, you mean the knee pain of your rat?" Because it literally says "not for human consumption" on the
Uh-huh.
labeling, and then they would go, "Well, yeah, of course. If my rat, I just have a question. If my rat weighs 275
Uh-huh.
pounds and does hit training on Tuesdays and Thursdays, should they double up on Tuesday?" So we know what was going on.
Right.
Every quarter, my business partner and I were getting together and asking if we should get into this, asking ourselves if we wanted to get
Should
into
we
the
do
supplement
this?
industry.
Yeah.
And and I think it's fair. You would it's probably extremely generous to say that the supplement industry is challenged. I actually found a peer-reviewed published research paper that showed that 50% of the supplements that this research group had purchased on the market, the
Yeah.
general market, didn't have in them what they said they had in them. And so we just,
It's a
quarter after,
problem. It
it is a
is.
problem.
And try not to but I'm going to say it, like if you're getting your supplements on Amazon, even if you're going with a brand name you trust, you have no idea what you're getting. Like the
Yeah.
counterfeiting it sounds crazy that there's money to be made in counterfeiting supplements, but apparently there is because
Yeah.
they're doing it. So just, be educated because the whole point of learning about things like ESS 60 is to enhance longevity and health.
Yeah.
And so you have to do it smartly. Um, Question about because it directly ties to quality and trusted sources because it is difficult and expensive to make.
Mm.
Are there ways are there different ways to get a carbon 60 molecule into a supplement that are less clean, different manufacturing processes that we should be aware of?
Well, I think one of them is to not have any C60 in your product, right? So
Well,
C60 is kind of the scientific name, and the way we think about it is carbon 60 is for industrial purposes, right? Inks, batteries, tires, and photocells. And there is peer-reviewed published research that shows if it's improperly processed, it's harmful. ESS 60 is C60 that's processed for people and pets. And we actually tested 22 of the products in the C60 space, and only one company had the concentration that they had on their labels in their product. Of one company, and ours, of course. And that's not even the bad part. The bad part is there's companies out there. We try, like it's not smart for us to go bashing other companies in
no,
the
I'm not
space.
asking
And
you to.
oh no, right. So we just share what we've done, and we don't call anybody individuals out. But I have done videos specifically about companies. C-60.com. I think he actually has C60.com. Greska. I've had videos out there for probably 4.5, 5 years that prove there is no C60 in that product, like zero. So that's one of the reasons
Which
that
is
we can,
probably better than improper.
yeah, if
Like,
it's
I
improperly,
mean, at least it's not doing damage. That's
well,
good.
but with the, I guess the counter argument to that would be what's in it.
That's
Right. So
true.
he sells it in sunflower seed oil, which can be
Oh,
okay if you process it, it's
now you already
usually
lost me.
hyper processed, but let's just pretend he did the right thing here. And then it looks like there is, think about ink toner. Like if you just put
Stop
ink
it.
toner in sunflower seed oil, that's the consistency, right? The simple test that I did is I filtered it. And if you are dissolved in the oils, which ESS
Supposed
60
to
will
be.
certainly do,
Right.
carbon 60 will do, then it should have gone through the filter, right, into the bottom, and nothing should have been stuck on top of the filter. I mean, you can picture it like if you're trying to separate sugar and sand, right? You dissolve the sugar in water, you filter it, the sand stays on top, the sugar goes through in solution, you boil out the water, now you have the sugar. Well, in this case, what came through the filter was just clear sunflower seed oil. because all of the black gook, whatever it is, stayed on top. So this is kind of the environment. The lucky thing that you could have is a company that isn't really kind of operating with scientific integrity. There's another company that has gummies out there, right? We're talking about something that is a healthcare product, right? Like that's the ultimate goal here.
This is one of my biggest pet peeves.
Right.
Gummy, adult gummy supplement. Why?
So the last time, because we purchased competitors' products, right? The last time I purchased it, it didn't even say how much C60 was in the gummy. Like you don't know. But on the website, it does say. And on their product, it says 1 to 2 gummies is a serving. But if you take 2 gummies, you get about 1 point. First off, like it should be based on weight, not on gummies, right? Like what is like how much of this ESS60 molecule are you going to take? Like that's the recommended thing. When you do the math, it's 1.1 milligrams of carbon 60 in their case. And you go to the most popular product, which is olive oil, and you take a typical serving, it's right at 4 milligrams. So you have to ask yourself, like, well, what's a real serving, right? Is the gummy? I mean, they're delicious, but is it just a gimmick to try and sell more? But it also has the potential to backfire because people will take it. They're not getting what I would consider a real serving,
dose, sure,
right? And then they're like, oh, I tried that stuff, it didn't work.
Yeah.
So that is what you fight in every. If I continue the story, I'll tell you where all this sits. In 2000, so I mentioned the paper I found, 50% of them didn't have in them what they said then they had in them, right? These supplements, and it wasn't the C60 supplements, it was just general supplements on the market.
Period. Yeah.
In the latter part of 2017, a guy with a big YouTube following started talking about all the benefits he was taking it on a daily basis. And that's when our phone rang 10 times a day instead of 2 to 3 times a week with these crazy, wacky biohackers. It got normalized, if you will. And that's when one step was, well, this is an entrepreneurial opportunity bigger than we realized. I would love to say that we were super smart and we were on top of this in the beginning, right? We're just conservative scientists. We're like, not for human consumption.
Yeah.
We actually did the opposite of what would have been smart to make a ton of money at that time. So,
well, but you were being led by integrity at the time. So
100%.
That's always smart.
100. I agree. Thank you. And so we looked back at that paper and we knew that this was going to happen in the C60 space. You just know, because that's what happens in all supplement spaces. And we have the lab. We're the oldest and longest manufacturer and distributor of the molecule on the planet. We've got the equipment. HPLCs to test the concentrations. And so we kind of knew we had to get into the industry. And to kind of wrap up that piece, we asked ourselves 2 questions. The first question is a moral question. Are we comfortable selling it? So I take it, my wife takes it, everybody on our team here takes it. Not a requirement. We don't, you don't have to clock in and then take your shot. Somebody's there giving the shot. Really, they just have access to the research, and probably more importantly, they have access to the customer testimonials, and so everybody here takes it. So morally, very comfortable selling it. And then the next is legal. You've got the FDA and the FTC. You got to cross the T's, dot the I's, and that's when, at the beginning of 2018, we really brought this to market as ESS60.
Amazing. Thank you for that, because I just wanted to solve any confusion, and really just let people know, just like any other supplement, they're not all created equally.
Yeah.
And so I tend to not talk to people about supplements if they're doing the same thing everybody else is doing.
No, yeah.
So why bother? So I love it. So let's talk about ESS60, because, and I don't want to delve too far into the rat study, other than to say those particular rats were known to get cancers. And one of the other things that was found was that those rats that live 90% longer weren't as riddled with cancer. It was more cancer, typically more cancer as they got older, and these did not have that same cancer risk.
They actually had zero cancer, right? So this is pretty phenomenal,
and they're
right?
cancer
So
rats.
this is the rat that gets cancer. Like it's
Yeah.
like genetically programmed, literally,
Right.
to get cancer. So a typical Wistar rat lives out 32 months, has a known amount of tumor mass in its body. The longer it lives, the more tumor mass it gets. Even though the MyVitalC rats lived out to 62 months, none of them had any tumors. And you know, I've told this story, and you may have heard this, but I've told this story, and some people are like, "Oh, cure for cancer," and I'm like,
No.
"No, no." And then you follow that with a no. It's a big difference between dealing with a cancer that is metastasized, right, and
Sure.
potentially being a cancer preventative. And we know things as simple as good nutrition, good exercise, good sleep can be cancer preventatives. It does throw it into that. Now, there is one really fascinating Petri dish study where they took healthy, by the way, Petri dish study, lowest level of study, right? Like anecdotes more important than Petri dish study, because there's all sorts of things you can do in a Petri dish that you should never put inside of a living being, right? Like that's the reality. But still, some interesting data comes from Petri dish studies. So they have a Petri dish with healthy cells and cancer cells, and they introduce an anti-cancer agent, which is a poison, right? You're trying to poison the cancer cells before the healthy cells. And the presence of the ESS60 molecule, you have increased efficacy of that anti-cancer agent against the cancer cells and actually protective effect for the healthy cells. And so that's a pretty phenomenal result. There's obviously a lot more research that needs to be done going down that path. We think that has to do with what's going on in the mitochondria, what this molecule is doing in the mitochondria. So, but yeah, those are some pretty exciting things about this molecule and research. I'll tell you, the next research that we're doing is an HSCRP study, so high sensitivity C-reactive protein, because, well, I'll tell you why we're doing that study. So at Longevity Fest, so A4M's Longevity Fest, right, American Academy of Anti-Aging, a Dr. Lane Young came up to us, and he said the following, and I actually said, okay, you've just said that, I need to record, you need to say it again, I need to record it. He said, Chris, I don't care if you're male, female, pre-surgery, post-surgery, cardiovascular disease, or otherwise healthy, your product is reducing elevated HSCRP numbers. And his number that he was talking about was 9, down to 0.9. So that's in normal ranges in 4 to 8 weeks.
Amazing.
He said additionally that they were seeing an improvement in HRV, right? So heart rate variability, and sleep between 20 and 60%. By the way, I don't think I've even said this. Our most consistent testimonial is people take it in the morning, they report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. And so he just kind of supported that better sleep piece. So that's driving us to do an HSCRP study. So that's one. The next one is, and this is pretty recent. Again, I would love to tell you that I'm a super genius and I should have started this study. And well, I should have started this sooner. But it just finally got hammered, smacked into my face enough times. So we'll be starting a migraine study.
Nice.
My wife has an amazing migraine testimonial. I have my own. I'll tell you, I'll share mine.
I knew
by the way,
there was in there. I knew it.
That's driving the studies, right? So let me throw this out, right? The FDA disclaimer. So the FDA has not evaluated our products. It is not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. As I share anecdotes, I always just share, hey, assume this isn't going to happen for you. Dig into the research. If you want to try it, I'm sure we'll give a link as we kind of wrap things up.
Sure.
In my case, I am the geeky guy that you see in front of you. I have a spreadsheet back to 2014 to track my 4 to 5 migraines per year.
Okay.
My wife's 4 per month.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 to 5 per year. And I was tracking them because they're miserable. Like, I don't know if you've experienced migraines.
Yes.
Like it's the
yes,
it's the kind where you need to go into a quiet room. You need to have it needs to be cool, no sound, no light. It takes you out. When I started taking this product on a regular basis in 2018, I didn't get a single migraine for 18 months.
Wow.
And then the irony of me getting my first migraine after that time period was I went off of the product to participate in our sleep study, and then I got my migraine. And I'll tell you, I get 1 or 2 per year now. but they're not debilitating. Migraines often come with what's called an aura. It's a sliver of your vision that looks like a kaleidoscope. Starts for me on the side, goes into the center of vision, takes about 15 minutes, and then it goes away. But I can actually work through it now. Now, reading through a kaleidoscope is not, if I had to, I could do it. But I could record a podcast. I can have conversations with people on the team.
Nice.
So I can actually work through them. And so that's just a night and day experience. And the reason that we just kicked off, like we've got to start this study, I recorded a podcast and we did a follow-up podcast where her name's Ashley, had access to the product. And it was a 2-hour podcast. The second one, the first 45 minutes was her just saying how I don't even know that we talked about it much, but her husband, about migraines on the first episode, but her husband, debilitating migraines, right? The kind of migraines where like, and the frequency where like, is today going to be a good day or a bad day?
Yeah.
And our life is steered around these migraines. For 45 minutes, she's like, now he's got a tool. This can lessen him if he's in the middle of them by taking the product on a regular basis. Like he's having significant relief and significantly fewer migraines. And so that was the pan that smacked me in the face was like, you should do a migraine study. So we're kicking off that migraine study here shortly. Actually, I need to come in this weekend and design it and get it over to our team.
That's so exciting. And I will give, and again, I want to back up and say a couple things. We'll circle back to the HSCRP as well, because we use the word longevity, right? The goal is obviously not to extend lifespan, but to extend health span. We want to stay well, live well as long as we're here, and hopefully longer than we might have expected. And I was just at a longevity conference a few days ago, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly what we need to think about. It's really all about how do we postpone these chronic diseases, and that's how we focus on longevity. And in my humble and not uneducated opinion, and I'm not a physician, all of the chronic diseases that are so rampant now are driven by chronic inflammation, period. And so that's why I'm so excited about your HSCRP study, because you're talking cancer, you're talking autoimmunity, you're talking, it's all driven by chronic inflammation. Keyword chronic.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's really, really exciting. And I am living proof that when you get to the root of what's driving chronic inflammation or help prevent it from ever becoming a thing, you can reverse it, be rid of it, and live well and feel well.
And thrive.
And thrive. Yeah. It's really powerful. Then the second piece I want to add is in the functional medicine world, this anecdotal evidence it's powerful. There's a lot that we're going to learn, I think, within this next decade that is not going to have double-blind studies behind it, just because sometimes you can't, and there's too many factors to control for, because especially, again, longevity. Right? Yeah. How do you control all these factors for years and years? And so I truly, as somebody who is anecdotal evidence, I believe in it. And before I knew about your company, I was fortunate enough. This is going to sound funny since I prefaced it with fortunate enough, but had a pretty significant head injury in the beginning of 2020. That took me out for a few months. Couldn't work. I mean, I was home and able to take care of myself, but my short-term memory was really, really affected. My processing was really, really affected, and the pain in my head. It was not a migraine. It was from a head injury. But one of the few things that would really help when it got intolerable was a carbon-60 product that I was given. And I mean, I was like drinking it. I mean, it was a game changer. So I don't know the mechanisms of action, but I know
We can talk about that.
yeah. But I know, and I don't have to. I'm curious and always interested to learn. But it's the feeling is believing.
Yeah.
Like okay, and I've heard you say, and now I'm jumping because I'm excited. I've heard you say that ESS60 gets into the mitochondria.
Yep.
As somebody who has needed a lot of mitochondrial TLC over the past decade to reverse that chronic inflammation, chronic illness, rheumatoid arthritis. That like just when I heard you say those words in a different conversation, I was like, wait, what? That's because we have all these ways and other supplements and different things that we're trying to use to support mitochondrial health. So can we talk about that a little bit? Because I think for everybody listening who has had an autoimmune diagnosis, I don't think mitochondria is a new word. I think, listeners know at this point that the energy, whether it's the energy you feel or the energy your body needs, it still all comes down to mitochondria. So, hey, how do you know that it gets in and just geek out on that a little bit for me?
Yeah. Well, and I'll tie it back to, the potential impact on migraines, the potential impact
Yeah.
on the pain that you were feeling, which is, there's an interesting, right, because your brain doesn't actually have any nerve endings in it, right? Like, so your brain can't feel pain per se.
Right.
It's usually the inflammation. They kind of equate that. I've heard conversations about it, that it's inflammation. And we have to be really careful when we talk about inflammation, and I'll outline why. And you kind of alluded to it, which is the FDA sees conversations about inflammation as conversations about the diseases of inflammation, which are also the diseases of aging, right? So arthritis, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, cancer. So if I come on your podcast and I say we address chronic inflammation, what the FDA hears is me claiming that we cure cancer and we cure cardiovascular
No,
disease,
not what
which
we're
is
saying.
that is not what we're saying at all. If you're not, I'm vehemently shaking my head no. I mean, in reality, there's a lot of research and frankly, extremely expensive research that would need to go in to be able to make those claims. And the FDA does allow us to talk about inflammation as it relates to exercise, right? So, or acute inflammation. So we've all had a tough workout or maybe just walked farther than normal, and we feel that inflammation in our body that next day. We can say that we address that. Other types of inflammation, we've got to kind of look longer term. And that's one of the benefits. Like we can talk about HSCRP. So we'll get this study done and we'll be able to talk. By the way, already an HSCRP study has been done in beagles, the dogs, and it reduced the HSCRP, which is an inflammatory marker. So, it's highly likely that this is going to work given testimonials and those studies that have already been done. So, yeah, I think everybody kind of, certainly in your audience, is going to know mitochondria, powerhouse of every cell. There's between 50 and 5,000 mitochondria in every cell in your body, except for your blood cells, which have 0, and your brain and neurons, which have 2 million. Like, this is just amazing how much our nervous system uses relative to our other systems. And like any power source, there is a negative byproduct. You think about your car, back to our car, not the battery, but the exhaust, right? That's the power source has the exhaust coming out of it. That's negative. You've got a power plant with smoke coming out of the smokestack. That's a negative.
Yeah.
In the case of mitochondria, you have reactive oxygen species. And the way I picture these is like little bumper cars, right? If they're left to their own devices, everything they slam into, they're causing rust, right? Oxidative stress, oxidative damage, ultimately inflammaging, this confluence of aging and inflammation. And internal to the mitochondria, not surprising, there are mechanisms to manage these reactive oxygen species. The key antioxidants that tend to manage them are glutathione and melatonin. And there's a really interesting parallel, right? Our most consistent testimonial involves better sleep. Melatonin is the sleep hormone, so there's a nice parallel here. But what happens when your mitochondria is stressed, right? Like in your case, you have this brain injury that's causing some acute swelling, like immediately that's stressing your mitochondria. What happens is they start producing extra reactive oxygen species that the local glutathione and melatonin can't manage. And that's where and normally that's where they run around like little bumper cars, rusting, oxidative stress, inflammaging. And that's where we think that this ESS60 molecule comes in. So there is peer-reviewed published research that shows that the molecule gets into the mitochondria. So that's really powerful already. Way back in the 90s, we understood that the exterior of this ESS60 soccer ball shaped molecule could hold onto 6 negatively charged particles. And so our thought process is that this molecule is holding on to those extra reactive oxygen species so they don't run around and do, like little bumper cars. They stick on the molecule. And then when your mitochondria can replenish the glutathione and replenish the melatonin, then they can manage them properly. And I have a fun analogy that I'll share. I like this. I don't know if you agree with me. I feel like all biological analogies should start with Mardi Gras.
Why not?
Yes. I mean, a lot of biology happens there, right? So it's
good
the end
and
of
bad.
Good and bad, yes. So it's the end of Mardi Gras. You've got the drunk reactive oxygen species on Bourbon Street, smashing windows, painting cars, and you've got the New Orleans Police Department, the glutathione and melatonin will come onto Bourbon Street, handcuff themselves to those reactive oxygen species and get them off of Bourbon Street. But what does the New Orleans Police Department do when they get overwhelmed? They take those reactive oxygen species and they stick them in a paddy wagon, right?
Gotcha.
So they can't run around and do damage. And then when they replenish the glutathione, replenish the melatonin, then they can handcuff themselves to those reactive oxygen species and get them off of Bourbon Street. And that's why we say that this ESS60 molecule is the boss, a buffering oxidative stress system. Now, there is some debate, and I think your anecdote really kind of helps us. And the anecdote with migraines, by the way, making no claims. We're going to do a study so that we can actually talk about it with authority. At this point, it's just some anecdotes. But there is some debate in the scientific community. Does this molecule cross the blood-brain barrier? If it's getting into the mitochondria, I think we've got good cause to believe that it can cross the blood-brain barrier. And when you start looking at testimonials like where is it adding the benefit? And the benefit was clearly in your head, in your brain, not in your head like psychologically, but in your brain matter, right? Then
although I am just for the record, I'm definitely not opposed to placebo effect. Like I'll take it.
Yeah, no,
still
so
an
it's
effect, but not what you're going for.
Yeah. No, and I'm with you. I think the placebo affects everything. Like it affects your medication, it affects your supplements, it affects your sleep routine, it affects.
We were talking about this before we hit record, right? And whether it's a longevity program, an autoimmune program, it doesn't matter. Mindset first, and to me, like placebo effect is just the scientific proof that mindset matters.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
There's one placebo effect study because sometimes it doesn't land how impactful the placebo. By the way, we're talking a lot about placebo effect. I don't suggest that's the only thing that works with my product, but
no, I'm saying that was like it was really more because mindset is
so important.
It's so important. It's we just had this conversation with somebody recently at the clinic that was going through treatment, and even if you're, God forbid, needing to go through cancer treatment or some kind of medical treatment that you were hoping to never need to go through, your mindset really matters.
It does.
You tell yourself that this is helping. I'm grateful to get the, don't show up for treatment like, oh, this is going to be so bad. I had a client that was on a medication for a while when I had first started working with her, and it was making her really sick. And we did some mindset work. It didn't make her sick anymore. I mean, it was like she was making herself sick because she was expecting to get sick from it. So I'm not saying
Yeah.
that your products
Positive mindset
need
is
placebo effect. I'm just saying mindset really is important, whether you're looking to heal or you're looking to up level longevity, whether you're, just starting out or you're a kind of tried and true biohacker. It doesn't matter. Nobody does anything. Hopefully, the intention is to up level, to heal, to
yeah.
prevent all the things that you are studying.
Yeah.
To be clear.
Yeah. And very proud to be that. A lot
Yeah.
of most supplement companies don't do research, and even fewer publish. We actually published one paper last year and one this year. So I think it was June of last year,
Congrats.
May of this year.
Nice.
So not only are we doing the research, which supplement companies tend not to do, we're also publishing it. So we're really excited about doing the right thing on a regular basis.
Well, and hopefully we'll elevate the standard in the industry, right? Wouldn't it be
Yes.
great if that was the MO as opposed to putting out a whole bunch of products and they don't have science behind them? So,
Yeah.
it's that mix. Cause again, I would be the one calling saying, I'm a 114-pound rat. How much do I eat? That was me. It's been known to happen.
If the headaches got more severe, would it be okay to double up or triple up the serving? And we're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got a fun story about talking about tripling the serving. So we've got he's a U.S. ultra running champion. His name is Anthony Kunkel. Loves our product. And I remember the first conversation that I had with him. He said, "Hey, Chris, I was taking one serving and I didn't really notice anything." And then I joke, like all good biohackers, he tripled the serving.
Uh-huh.
And by the way, there are things you
Skip
should
right
never
over double. Yeah.
just go to triple. By the way, there are things you should never triple. So
Yep.
just be really careful. In our case, it's fine. And he said, "I believe that your product could be the difference between somebody having running as a hobby and running as a career."
Wow.
And he went on to say that I don't believe your product speeds exercise recovery. I believe it prevents damage in the first place.
That's
which
the point.
Which is parallel, right, with, hey,
Yeah.
we're in the mitochondria holding on to these reactive oxygen species that would normally do damage. And the way he kind of expressed it is he said, on the last 5 miles of a 50-mile run, which is a phrase you will probably never hear again.
It's not your average conversation.
We'll just throw that out there. He said, where strength and stability used to be a problem, they're no longer a problem.
Yeah.
And so I think it's pretty, yeah, I brought up the story because he did triple the serving and it had an impact. So we have athletes who are, willing to push the envelope more, and ultra extreme athletes willing to push the envelope more.
Yeah, and they're so limited in what can they take that might actually make a difference in their physicality. So that's really exciting because it's like, okay, well then I don't need to want to, nor will I ever run 50 miles, but it could certainly move my needle, right?
Yeah.
And you guys use a variety of oils, yes?
Yes. Yeah, we have olive oil, avocado oil, and MCT oil. And people ask, which one should I take? We always recommend the olive oil for 2 reasons. The first is we're a science-based organization, and almost all the research is in olive oil. Okay. The next is you get a higher concentration of the ESS60 molecule in olive oil. You get about 0.8 milligrams per milliliter in olive oil, 0.6 in avocado oil, and then 0.3 in MCT oil. And I'll share my personal routine. Well, first I can share this. When I started taking this on a regular basis, if I got to the afternoon, like 2 or 3, and I felt like I needed a nap or an extra cup of coffee, I could always look back and I had forgotten to take it. It wasn't part of my routine yet. Now it is part of my routine. I do kind of a bulletproof coffee thing, which is supposed to be coffee, MCT, and a high quality ghee or purified butter. I don't like the taste of the ghee and I don't want those calories. So I actually just do our MCT in my coffee. And and I do about a teaspoon and a half. While that's blending, I take a teaspoon and a half of olive oil right off of a spoon. And that's what kicks me off for the day. So when people ask, we always steer them towards olive oil.
Okay. But you're not putting the ESS 60 in your coffee.
Yeah. So it's
Or you are.
dissolved in the,
Okay. So the
in
heat
the oil.
doesn't do
Not a
anything bad
problem.
to it. Okay.
No, you can
And so
cook
you're
with this,
not putting butter or any other fat in the coffee?
just MCT.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then I
Okay.
take a teaspoon and a half of the olive oil.
Okay. Neat. I like that. And I am somebody who does I'll say a fat coffee as
Yeah.
well in the morning. And it's funny. Like I told you I was just traveling. I travel with my stick blender. You know, my husband he's just great. He's like, you know, you need to put some of your heavy things in my suitcase. Go ahead. Cause I have like a big stainless, you know, like jumbo cup that I can just make it right in the cup. I bring, cause I'm a wacky, you know, you're talking to
You're
the
a
right
biohacker.
person.
It
I bring
sounds-
my stainless steel percolator, my clean coffee. Yeah. The whole thing.
It sounds like you're a biohacker. I don't know.
That was how I found functional medicine, was my original biohacking training that I did with Dave Asprey in 2016.
Oh, wow. So were you with, I think Natalie Needham was in one of his first courses. Were you with her?
I
or
don't
maybe
know if she was
class?
in my cohort. His first cohort was strange that I remember that in March in New York, and I couldn't go to that one because my mare was pregnant and the foal was due to be born in March, and I wanted to be able to deliver him. So I did the second cohort, which was in the fall in Pasadena. So, but I'm not sure. But that was my entry into and then it's like, you can't go back.
Yeah.
And I wanted to help people, and I found out about functional medicine, and I wanted, you know, it just snowballed from there. So couple of newbie questions. So why wouldn't everybody just use the olive oil?
Oh, with the ESS 60 molecule in it, or yeah. Well, I mean, that's
why do you have options?
So some people, this is interesting, right? So one, MCT is a pretty bland flavor. I always think it's kind of buttery, and some people the olive oil doesn't resonate with you. But understand, you've got to take more of the MCT. I actually bumped into somebody who said they were allergic to olive oil and allergic to MCT, which is one of the most surprising things. And so they needed the avocado oil. And I'm like, okay, well, we have an option for you. So really it is just some people.
And they're all great oils. I use all three.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I was just curious. I love, you know, I love that you have the options. I was just curious about like, well, okay, if you have to use more of the MCT, which then be careful using too much MCT.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So and you're kind of alluding to, you know, there's only really two kind of negative things people will say about our olive oil specifically, which is one, we are made with a high quality extra virgin olive oil, and it will leave a peppery flavor at the back of your throat.
Okay.
And so we have people call us and goes like, oh, it's burning my throat. Is it rancid? No, it's like primo grade A olive oil. You may have been to a restaurant where they'll pour olive oil on a plate to dip your bread in, and then they'll crack pepper into it. And what they're trying to do is make an
pretend it's good olive oil.
Yep, that's exactly what they're trying to do. And then
I can taste exactly what you mean, though, because you know, that would be something you would use as a finishing oil, a high quality olive oil like that, and it does always get me in the throat.
Yeah. No,
I could see how.
I'll be in the middle of a conversation, be like, hold on, I need a moment. So that's one, and then the other is, you know, a typical serving is 1 teaspoon, which is not, you know, insignificant. And some people, if you're not taking any sorts of oils, it can loosen your stool for a while. And, you know, Dave calls it disaster pants. That's not what's going on. It's just a little loose stool for a day or two. And then,
so not disaster pants.
No disaster pants.
I tend to, you know, when I talk with clients about MCT oil, I have them start low and slow.
Yeah.
for that reason. And it's always and I'll talk about disaster pants. I always credit Dave. And it's always the men who don't pay attention to anything I said and give themselves disaster pants one time. And then, then they realize it was, and I get that's really real.
Yeah. No, that happened.
I've not had one female client that just decided I'm gonna triple the dose and we'll see. So that's funny.
Yeah,
That's really
funny.
good. So I love that there is a variety and yeah, share how. So anecdotally, you're finding, people are telling you've got all this feedback that take it in the morning, brain turns on and sleeping better.
Yeah.
Do you take it more than once a day?
Well, it depends. If I'm doing back-to-back shows, if I've got kind of a longer day, when I'm at conferences, I'll do 5 or 10 shots. Like,
Wow. Okay.
it really is a lot. Because there's so much energy. Like you're working a booth, you're having so many conversations. And it really frankly keeps me going. But in general, I'm having a teaspoon and a half of the MCT in my coffee and then a teaspoon and a half of the olive oil just right off of the spoon.
Nice. But you're hardcore too.
Yeah.
You're used to it. And I always tell people play with it.
Yeah.
And find your lowest efficacious dose, right, of anything you're using. And then that gives you also that buffer of I have a bigger day, or I have the things I definitely go big if I'm at a conference and I'm, it's just a very different kind of day.
Yeah.
And so, and I want to, there's so much I want to talk about, and I've already kept you so long, but there are 2 things.
Okay.
One, we're talking about longevity and up leveling and potentially preventing the chronic health challenges that we want to prevent as we age. Is this magic? Does the rest of lifestyle matter? So can somebody just do whatever they want, but they're going to incorporate ESS 60 because it gets into the mitochondria? We're all good.
Yeah, we're done. I can sit on the couch and eat bonbons and drink scotch, and you still have to do all the things, right? Remember, well, I don't think I've said this. Our description of what's going on is we believe that we're reducing the negative impact of stressed mitochondria, right? And if you do that, you should have what we have, which is head to toe testimonials. I'll give you this. I think this is the perfect kind of anecdote for what you're asking. Stress is actually really important. If we just stop experiencing stress, we turn into little puddles of amoeba, whatever, and we're useless.
That's how you build muscle even. We need stress. That was why I kind of highlighted that earlier. It's the chronic, right?
Yeah.
Stress is not, it's gotten a bad rap as a bad thing because we do talk about chronic stress and chronic inflammation. And inflammation is a healing signal. The inflammation's not bad either.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just get excited.
No, that's fine. So you think, if you're still not convinced, just think about astronauts when they come back from space.
Yeah.
They're kind of health disaster dumpster fires, right?
They age
bone
so quick. Yeah.
Their bone density has reduced. Their immune system is compromised. Stress is good. So I picture our physiology like a beautiful prairie, right? With prairie grasses and flowers. And the rain that falls on that prairie is the right amount of stress. And then there are times, because we live in this modern society, you'll have a deep, dark cloud come on to the prairie and pour a fountain of water into one spot. That will create a mud hole, dig a hole in the prairie. So that's what you need to manage. And that's where I picture this ESS 60 molecule like a sponge going between that dark cloud and the prairie and absorbing that stream of stress. And it's important to note, this is why I thought of this example. If you don't manage that deep, dark cloud, eventually the sponge fills up and it starts pouring on the prairie again, right? So if you want to sit on the couch and eat bonbons and, watch Netflix and drink scotch, Like you're not making that dark cloud go away, and eventually the sponge doesn't add any value. And then, when you win, and if you do, think about Anthony Kunkel's example. He's got a massive deep dark cloud that's
Yeah.
pouring when he's running, when he's getting close to competitions. He's running 120 miles a week, right? Like he's got this deep dark cloud and it's pouring, and this is just a bucket, right? The ESS60 molecule, you can kind of picture it, a bucket holding that extra stress until your body can get back to homeostasis and then manage it in a healthy way.
I love that. I love the visuals and the analogies. And I think that that's great. And I knew your position. I wanted to hear how you were going to eloquently put that for us.
Thank you.
So I really appreciate it. As a 56-year-old female, I know for a fact that lots of listeners are also interested in, and I am definitely a aesthetics from the inside out kind of girl. But you have some aesthetic products and topical uses as well that incorporate ESS60, and I'd love for you to share that with us.
Yeah, so the first one came out. We had a business partner, and still have the business partner, and she would drink just like right out of the bottle, and there'd be some spills on it, and she would take that and wipe it on her skin. And even before she was doing that, we actually have skin and nail testimonials from people taking the product orally, right? And we could theorize that that's because, you're helping the body get back to some sort of homeostasis, and now it can start focusing on hair and nails, which are aesthetic typically. But yeah, we already had hair and nail testimonials. She's putting it on her skin. She was like, we need to do a skin product. And, if I told the story well enough, you understood I didn't even want to be in the supplement industry. So when she was like, we need to make a serum, I was like, yay, a serum. That sounds amazing.
That's why I went into science.
I woke up today thinking we should have a serum. So we put the serum out. It was already getting some pretty amazing testimonials. And then my director of research came to me and he said, Chris, I found a peptide. It's got 30 years of skin and hair improvement. You should, in peer-reviewed published research, you should go look at the research. So I looked at the research. The peptide is amazing. And I was like, how do we incorporate this into a product? Because we want to combine it with ESS60. And ESS60 is oil soluble, not water soluble. Peptides, water soluble, not oil soluble. We could have shoved these things together with an emulsifier, right?
Okay.
But no one likes what an emulsifier sounds like. And then if you Google it, there's only negative health.
There's nothing good about, no.
Yeah, it's bad. So we decided to do a two-part. So we've got the lotion, we call it UTH29, which stands for Youth 29, which I later learned was the age all women want to stop aging at. 29 is like the right amount of sophistication, the right amount of youth, like apparently. And then our ESS60 activator. So you put 2 squirts of the UTH29 in your palm. You put 2 drops per squirt, so 4 drops. You actually activate it right there in your palm and apply it to every spot that you might experience aging on.
So you can just bathe in it, basically.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. So this is so much fun. So, actually close to you, right? Boulder Institute of Longevity, right, Dr.
Yeah, Elizabeth Yarth. Yep.
So I was on a call with her team. They were at a conference table. They came up as a team, came up to our booth at A4M.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little bit of hyperbole, but this is how I kind of describe it. There were 2 people on their team who were like, hey, living longer, get that out of the way. Being healthier, get that out of the way. I am here for your skin reduo.
Yeah.
I don't care about those things. I need your skin reduo. So we get amazing testimonials about the skin reduo.
Amazing. I love it. And I listeners know, I really only believe in, I love what you said too. I'm going to go back to just highlight the body is not going to repair skin, nails, hair when it doesn't have the physiological resources to do so. That's the bottom of the barrel for survival. Even though that might be the thing that gets the person to come in the door at the clinic, especially a woman, although men too. And so I love that it's, that's great feedback. And those things to me, they take time. Like when you make a change, skin doesn't change overnight. Something now topically you can change appearance or,
Yep.
but so I love that. But also listeners know, I don't care how well a product works if it's not clean enough to meet my standards. So that's why I was excited to ask you about it.
Yeah.
So if somebody has a little bit of that biohacky kind of like, do I need the SS60 activator? Can I use the UTH29 with the oil that I'm already taking in the morning? I'm guessing it's a little bit of a different formulation.
It's not that much different. The activator is mostly MCT with the ESS60 molecule and some essential oil for fragrance. So it smells like, that's the other comment we get. Like when we're at conferences, like we kind of go through our spiel. We're like, hey, you got to try these. And people are just amazed at how it feels on their skin and how it smells. So really, we do sell that as a set, and I'd recommend you kind of get that as a set. Our favorite set is like the inside out set, which is like get some of the internal product, the consumable, and then get, the Reduo set.
I love it. Oh, this is just very like-minded. So I promised that I was only going to keep you a little bit past your scheduled time. And I just appreciate how you're doing what you're doing, and that you're doing what you're doing, but really just the integrity and the science behind the products that you create and put out there, because I do know it's the same conversation. I say this to people all the time as a certified Recode coach and a certified autoimmune coach. I don't care what you fill in the blank with, the approach is the same. And all of the things that when somebody walks in our door or through my virtual door, because they have really declined, all of the things we do, to stop the decline and then start reversing the decline, it's the same things we need to do to focus on longevity and up level. Like it's really not rocket science, although it's fun that the science is giving us all these tools, because we do live in a toxic soup. We do have stressors. I think so much of it is just that the world has evolved faster than our bodies. And so we do need some of these, I call it a leg up. Right. So even though I live really cleanly and I'm the crazy person who takes all that equipment with me, to to make my coffee in the morning the way I want it, it's also anything that can boost that is just that, is a tool, and it's a fantastic tool, and sometimes it's a necessary tool. I can only imagine if I had your products 15 years ago. I was was raised to be fat phobic. And so avoiding all the things that I needed to avoid and all of that, was a great managing stress, all the things that we know everybody needs to work on. But it wasn't until I added really a good amount of high quality fats back into my life that my body was like, oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So
it took you so long.
Exactly. And I mean, I choked it down. Like I knew, I read the science, I understood, and I still, after
it still felt wrong.
It was like, yeah, but I'm going to try it. And I am somebody who, when I try something and it works, then, that's why we have the podcast. So I know, so I promised I would let you go, but listeners are leaning in. This can be anything. What is one step people can take starting today to support their longevity?
So it's interesting because we mentioned before we started that I'm running a longevity fast track 8-week program. It's got 2 bonus weeks, and then there's a week 0. So I guess it really makes it 11 weeks, but we bill it as an 8-week longevity fast track. And week 1, not week 0, but week 1 is mindset. because so I did a longevity summit where I interviewed 55 experts, including like Dave Asprey, Ben Greenfield, Dr. Stephen Gundry, and 52 other amazing people. And this seems to be a theme. I wish I was smart enough to know where this was going to land, but I was smart enough to do this. I actually asked every single one of them, what are 2 to 3 habits, mindsets, protocols about longevity and long health span that you would share? And we kind of aggregated all the data. I've got a slide here, so if you're looking, great, there is it. I'll describe what it is. 33.3% mentioned sleep. 52% mentioned exercise, 52% mentioned diet, 46% mentioned mindset, 15% socializing, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff all over the place, right? And because sleep was 33 versus exercise at 52 and diet at 52, my first thought was that the experts got it wrong, right? Because we know how important sleep is, right? And we do tend to do a disservice. Like I say that society, we're like, yeah, sleep is amazing and important, and you got to get sleep. You actually absolutely have to get your 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep every single night, unless you have something else to do, right? Like that's kind of how our approach to sleep is. So maybe that's some of that. But then as with so many things, you start mulling it over, you start thinking it over. And then I realized they did get it wrong because they had mindset at 46%.
I agree.
And here's the reality. If you know you need to put your phone away, you need to do some blue light blockers, you need to turn your TV off, you need to go to sleep at the same time every night, and you don't have the mindset to do it, it's never going to happen. If you know you need to eat better and put the donut down and eat before 8 o'clock and you don't have the mindset to do it, you're not going to do it. Same with exercise. If you know you need to do the 4 things you need to be doing, right? Weight training, you should be sore once a week. VO2 max training, so you should be out of breath and potentially severely out of breath a couple times, during a workout, right? Once a week. Balance and flexibility. If you know you need to do those things, you don't have the mindset to do them, then you're not going to do them. So what I kind of put into my program is a super simple journal. Keep it down to 2 or 3 minutes in the morning and in the afternoon. Nothing more than 2 or 3 minutes. Something that's so easy, you punch yourself in the nose because you forgot to do it, right? Like it's just, you're not,
right.
There's no hesitation. Other than you got to build a habit, right? So we're in the middle of this longevity fast track right now. And even I'm building that habit because it wasn't my habit.
Yep.
But all you're looking for is like, what do I have gratitude for? Who could I help today? Who could I thank today? That's the morning, right? And the afternoon is, what also in the morning is what I can't control. Because if there are things that you're ruminating about that you really can't control, it's incredibly beneficial to write those things down. And again, we're only looking at 2 to 3 minutes. Usually it just takes me 2 minutes. And then in the afternoon, you're talking kind of very similar things like, who did I help today? What am I proud of that I achieved today? And that can be really hard for somebody. But I would suggest move in the direction of helping you change your own mindset and do a simple piece of paper, 2-minute or less journaling in the morning and the afternoon, because that can set your mind in the right direction.
I love it. And I absolutely agree. They got it wrong.
It's mindset.
You're doing it right. I'm sure you're so happy to hear from me.
Yes.
But the things that you highlighted are so important. The 2 to 3 minute, it should be short, sweet, easy, plain paper. Like it could be a notebook, fine, but not a journal with 80 prompts where it's going to take you an hour to fill out that you're not going to do it. That's not how we build a habit. And so I love that. And I love you're almost kind of cheating because you're like combining different kinds of journals, but like just making it a short bite. And it's so great. Where can people, especially, we're going to have all kinds of links and stuff in the show notes, but I know some people are like me and they listen only when they're on the go. Where's the best place to find out more about you? First of all, your book is on Amazon. Is that the best place to find Live Longer and Better?
Hey, by the way, the website's updated already. So thank you for letting me know. Our graphic designer had written the title backwards. So instead of Live Longer and Better, which is the actual title, it was like Live Better and Longer. And
Still
Julie was like,
good.
why was it
Still good.
backwards? I'll talk about the book in a second. If they like to catch content on the go, I do have a
Yes.
podcast. It's called Live Beyond the Norms, and so they can find that. I'm like you, interviewing kind of really amazing people. Certainly lucky to do that. If they're interested in trying the product, we made a URL specifically for your audience. That's myvitalc.com/ILW8, right? So inspired living with autoimmunity. So ILW, I said 8, but I meant A.
Okay, good. I got confused.
There's 8 things you should do, but the first one is use the letter A, not 8. So one more time, myvitalc.com/ILWA. When you go there, I've actually pared down that page. So we're really focused on olive oil, because that's where we think people should start. And really, people should try it for 2 to 3 months. And so we've got a special deal for your audience that's on that page. There's also a $15 off coupon on that page. As you land on that page at the very top, you will see from the longevity summit that I did, I collected 18 biohacking tips. So you can click that. That's for free. Just give us your email. When you're looking at the individual products, you can get them on subscription. You can get another savings. Plus, they arrive on a regular basis, so you don't have to think about it. Our customer service team has 1,000 5-star reviews on Google. So they are not trained to talk you out of canceling your subscription. You just send a phone call, whatever. But most people just stay on subscription because they like the product. And then the last piece that I'll share is the book, because I'm very proud of this piece.
Yes.
Not just the book, right? So Live Longer and Better, which is available on Amazon for $19.99. On the bottom of that landing page, you can find the book also for $19.99, or you can pay $10 extra and I will autograph the book for you. With this charity piece. Yeah, that
Nice.
$10, the whole $10 goes to Operation Underground Railroad. You may remember the movie The Sound of Freedom, which was an amazing movie about a horrible topic, which is child sex trafficking. That movie is about Operation Underground Railroad, so which is doing, I think, a fantastic job of trying to get that off of our planet, and 100% of the signature fee goes to Operation Underground Railroad. And then, of course, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok. Just look up MyVitalC to find me on Instagram, TikTok. We've got lots of content and tips and tricks and stuff going out there.
Amazing. Chris, I can't thank you enough for just the wisdom and the joy. We didn't even get into your improv background, but the joy that you bring. Like this is serious content, right? Like we live and breathe this stuff, but the people that are listening are really looking to up level. And I really appreciate, again, back to that, like the integrity that you guys use and the joy with which you deliver complicated information in beautiful analogies and metaphors that we can all understand. And so I just cannot encourage listeners enough to find you, get the book, try the products, and thank you for gifting them, the coupon and the deal to get them started, because I truly believe in it. As I have already said, I know it works. And so thank you.
Julie, thank you so much for having me.
For everyone listening, remember, you can get those show notes and links and transcripts by visiting inspiredliving.show. I hope you had a great time and enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity. Did you enjoy this episode? Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to get a transcript of this and every other episode, just head on over to inspiredliving.show or click on the link in this episode's description. There, you can also find everything we discussed in this episode, including links and information about our guest. You can even send in your questions to be answered by Julie in a future episode. That's inspiredliving.show. Until next time, this is Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, helping you take your power back.